We've been doing this for a few weeks now, just going live from Tuesday to Friday and having different guests with us. And we've had a phenomenal group of guests, from Catherine Eagan, who's joining us today, to Tim Timberlake, to Sean Blanchard, to Priscilla Black, to Dathan Thigpen. And if you missed any of that, you can find those on Facebook and on my YouTube channel as well. They're all worth taking the time to listen to. Honestly, this is some life-changing content, life-changing conversations that we're having in a very, very important moment in our lives. So today we're going to really be blessed by hearing from Catherine Eagan again. And she's been talking to us about how to manage our money during this quarantine, talking about our purpose and things along those lines. So I know it's going to be great. As you're joining us today, let me know where you're joining us from. Love to say what's up to you. And hi to all those who are catching this a little bit later. I see Krista's with us, and Van's mom, and Renita, and Edith, Brave Bear, and Karen. Good to connect with you guys. If anybody can figure out how I can go live on Instagram and Facebook at the same time and bring a guest in, let me know. Because I love to do both at the same time. But Edith in Atlanta, nice. I hear it's nice down there right now. Hey, Rashana. If I remember correctly, you just had a birthday, right? So, and hey, Raven, how you doing? So anyway, when people are joining us, I like to share just what I'm thinking about today, right? And I like to do it every time. And today I was really just thinking and praying this morning, and was just thinking about, Genesis 12:1, where God told Abraham, he said, leave your family, leave your kindred, leave your land, right? Leave your country and go to a land that I will tell you about. And what's so interesting about that is that God was telling him to make a great sacrifice. And then God wasn't telling him where he was going. He just told him, get on the road. And sometimes that's what happens, right? Sometimes what God will do is that God will give you the next step instead of giving you the full picture. And sometimes we get paralyzed in our lives and we don't see, where we're going. And so we don't do anything. We don't obey God because we're expecting God to give us a virtual tour. And God's not going to give you a virtual tour of your future. God is simply saying, trust me. Take this next step that I'm going to give you. And when you take this step, I'll give you the next step. And eventually you're going to end up in that place where it's like you're dreaming. And, the Bible says when desire comes, it's a tree of life. And, desire accomplishes sweet to the soul. You'll get to that place that you've been hoping for, that you've been dreaming about, that's in your heart, that place you're supposed to be in, that wealthy place where you're living your dreams. But the key is to recognize that you don't get to tell God how you're going to get there. In fact, you don't get to tell God how he's going to communicate that to you. And just a thought from my life, part of the process I went through, even when it comes to starting FX Church, was that it was a major, major, major life decision for me. Huge. I mean, I had to leave everything. I had to leave a very nice salary. I had to leave, put myself in a position where people could misunderstand what I was doing and why I was doing it and all of that. And then I had opposition, all this stuff going on. And I'm a praying person. So I was praying. And it got to the place where it was like, man, God's not telling me anything else. I know this is actually delayed. What's going on? And I came to the conclusion the problem wasn't that God wasn't talking. It was that he wasn't talking the way I wanted him to talk. Basically.
I told him this. I said, I want to be in banking. He said, oh, I'm so disappointed, Catherine. I'm so disappointed. And he said, we own, we have a private holding, between him and the Fisher family in the American Airlines. And I could put you, I think you would be great in marketing. I said, no, I want to understand money. And so he set up an appointment for me. And it was 2 women. And the only question I had for them is, what is the heartbeat of a bank? What is the heartbeat of a bank? And they said it's either trust, the trust division, handling wealth, intergenerational wealth, or it's commercial lending, one or the other. And they said, don't go for trust, because this is back in the early 80s. They said, there's never been a black person in the trust department. And there are very few, they're black men, but there's hardly very few women in commercial lending. So try to go into commercial lending. So I went back to Bill. I said, I got it, Bill. I know where I want to be. And he made that happen for me. But I remember one day I was walking in the bank, and I just felt the Lord. I was impressed that the Lord said to me, do you know that money is being made around your head 24/7, 7 days a week, all day long? In lira, at the time there was no European Union, in lira, in francs, in German marks, in Chinese yuans, in dollars. I mean, all money is being made all over the world. So what you have to do is tap into your share of that. That was the revelation. So that's how I got into banking. So I began to hone myself, hone my skills in the area of banking and finance. Now, I had graduated from Harvard. I'd already graduated from graduate school. And so I went back to school to study more about finance so that I could have more information in my craft and in my field. So what is your product and what is your business? What do you bring into the table? And I'm not talking about some ethereal thing that you just think and all of that. I'm talking about a tangible product that you can bring to the table. What are your revenue expectations? So let's just say you say, you know what? I go to my job and I am a factory worker. So what your business is you're a factory worker. And what your product is your services that you provide. And you ought to be the absolute best factory worker that you could possibly be. You ought to find ways to take it up. And it's been on my mind ever since the first call about the person who said that they work for Delta. When I said that Warren Buffett had unloaded all of his airline stocks, and the person said, oh my God. And I thought about that person, and I said, what would I do if I was that person? Well, if Catherine Eagan was on the case, what I would do is I would write, if I really liked that job and I really wanted that job, I would write to the president, to Ed Bastian, I think his name is, and I would write him and I would say, you know what? You can count on me. When Delta Airlines opens up, I'm your guy. I'm your girl. I'm your number one. Okay? You can count on me. I'm here for you as an employee. Now, that may sound strange, but it's really not strange. Because think about what the mindset of the CEO is right now at that airline. They're wondering, are all of their good, quality, trained employees or businesses coming back? Are they coming back? If they come back, will they come back with the right attitude? Will they be fearful? How are they going to come back? Listen, if I was working for Delta Airlines, I would be writing that letter to Mr. Edward Bastian, and I would say, listen, I'm your girl. Okay, I'm going to be there. I'm 100%. Okay, you can count on me. So they need to know. And so how are you distinguishing yourself? So back to the line worker, how are you, this is your business. How are you distinguishing yourself? Okay, what is your product? What are your revenue expectations? Your revenue expectations, and I'm speaking to you in business terms, but your revenue expectations is your salary, your wage. What do you expect to bring home? Okay. What do you expect to produce in your household? I am not for all of these separate accounts.
Mm-hmm.
That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because when push comes to shove, like times like now, all of our money needs to be pooled. I had money before I got married. I just want
Mm-hmm.
everybody to know, praise the Lord and hallelujah. I brought my bucks to the table.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought our money together. Now, going on 23 years later,
Wow.
we have zoomed that thing into multi-millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm just saying that not because I'm bragging on myself. I'm saying that because it's time for your family business to operate as a unit.
Right.
There's a reason why all of the nail salons are owned, and I don't have any, I'm not mad at them, are owned by the Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they come together. They'll live, 6 people will live in one home. Okay, and they will work together. They will help one another. They will support one another. Your family has to be in has to be a tight unit because this is your business. Okay, and your kids need to understand that they're part of this business.
Mm-hmm.
And their job, if they're in school, is to bring back good grades.
Right.
Their job, the revenue that they bring in is A's and not baby B's.
Right.
But that's about it.
Right.
Okay, because their job is to bring in A's because those A's will convert into
Right.
scholarships upon graduation.
Having this conversation right now.
Okay, yeah, right. It's going to convert to scholarships. Okay, and so their job, their part of the business is to bring in good grades. And when they bring in those good grades, it's going to cut down on your expenses of the overall business because you're not going to have to put up money for college tuition, room and board
Mm-hmm.
because they will qualify for scholarships
Right.
because they did their part in the family business.
Right.
In the family business. So what are the expectations? You should have expectations of yourself. You should have expectations of your kids. This is time for us to reposition. Remember what I told you last week, that the Lord said that this is a season of leaping ahead. We're in a leap year.
Mm-hmm.
So this time should be time well spent and you should be leaping forward. You should come out of this like a lion,
Mm-hmm.
ready to attack.
Mm-hmm.
You should be come out of this ready to just make it. I mean, they ought to be saying, not her again, not him again. Oh, Lord. So you need to make sure. What are your expenses? Let's take a good look at that. What are your expenses? We see our person from Brazil. That's great. What are your expenses? Okay? Because the family business cannot be out there. I see Raymond Taylor. Hey, Raymond. Cannot be out there spending up all the family assets.
Right.
I don't mind you having a nice, beautiful purse. I don't mind. Everything has a time and has a season. And what happens is when you spend money out of season, it comes back to bite you. It's interesting because when you spend money that you don't have, meaning that you put it on your credit card or you borrow it,
Right.
then it's going to catch up with you. And it's funny, the funny thing about spending money, I don't know about you guys, but spending money goes pretty quick, and you somehow, if you don't keep up with it, you can say, oh my God, what was this expense? When the bill comes, what was this? What was that? Don't buy things out of season. What does that mean? That means if you're not ready for it, don't buy it now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have it. You don't have to perpetrate. You don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to be the best you that you need to be. Okay? Be the best you. Be the gifted you. Be the anointed you. Be the powerful you that God has called you to be. So that when you step out with your Gucci purse, or you bring your LV to the table, okay? You not only have the LV, but you got the wallet with the money inside with
Right.
the black card on the inside, okay? So I'm just saying that you need to take a look at your expenses. Okay, and even in this age right now, for example, when we have a place in Turks and Caicos, I think I told you that. And what I did was I cut off the cable. I'm not there. I can't get there. I'm not going to get there. Who knows when the airlines are going? Who knows when the country is going to let people in? So why would I be paying for cable that I'm not using?
Right.
Okay, so let's take a look and evaluate. You know, do you know that this is really a powerful thing? Do you know that man's body was made to fast 1 day a week?
Mm.
Do you know how much money you could save if you fasted 1 day a week?
Mm.
I mean, this is getting deep, but I'm just saying, if we could find ways that we could make sure that we are evaluating our finances. Do we really need to go out and buy something to, things that we just don't want and don't need and that lose their value? And certainly if you're investing in things that are depreciating, unless you need a car. Okay, but we have to all understand that a car is a depreciating asset.
Right.
And so if you have it like that, no problem. But don't buy anything that you don't need. And I find that many people have the big problem of debt.
Mm-hmm.
Debt is not a sin, but Deuteronomy tells us that debt is a curse because we're supposed to be the lender
Right.
and not the borrower.
Saying that.
And so we do use debt. I'm guilty of it. We've been debt free and we've had debt and we've been debt free again and we've had debt. So you can use debt to leverage if you're using it, let's say, for a mortgage. But if you're using it for a credit card, my question is, can you pay that credit card off at the end of the month? This is, speaking of credit, this is a very good time for you to look at your credit report. Okay, we want to understand what you think about the business, but let's look at what a third party has to say about the business.
Mm-hmm.
You are the business. The credit score is what the credit raters are saying about you. So let's take a look at your credit score. How is your credit score?
Mm.
Is it good? Is it okay? Is it bad? Is it great? What's happening with your credit score? A lot of people don't want to look at their credit score because they really don't want to know. A lot of people like the ostrich mentality. They like to put their head in the sand, not deal with it, don't open the bills. No, we are more than conquerors in Christ Jesus who loves us. And so we're not given the spirit of fear. So we need to open up our bills. We need to get on that the credit card company, Experian, or whichever one you use. I use Experian.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to check your credit score. You need to see what the ratings are. I found in some cases where I thought I paid the medical bill, and they're the first ones to ruin your credit. They're among the first ones to ruin your credit. They will just drop a delinquency on your credit report like that. And so it was like $25. Okay, and so you want to make sure that you didn't miss something. It's possible you could have missed it. Check your credit report. Let's talk about how to repair your credit report since we're here. First of all, if you have a delinquency, find out whether it's a fact or not a fact. So if the delinquency is true, then you need to call on the credit card statements now. They actually, on reports, they actually have the number that you can call the company and you can find out what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so call the company, find out what's going on, find out if there's a way. This might be a good time for you to negotiate down your debt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you may be able to negotiate it in such a way that you can maybe make a payment. Maybe you can get them to write it off. Maybe you can reduce the exposure. Maybe there's a way that you can handle it. Okay, so while you're home, let's start making some phone calls so that, as I said in the beginning, when we come out of this sequestering, when we come out of this lockdown, this stay at home, whatever you want to call it, we're better off.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, call the credit card companies and get your credit straight. You should have, like my goal was 800. That's anything less than 800, that is totally unacceptable. So of course, when I got to 850, I was not surprised. Why was I not surprised? Because I had been working on getting to that level. Working on getting to that level. And so you need to make sure that you're working on getting to that level. You need to make sure that you should want to have an 850, because guess what? When you're in the real deal, the big deal, they are not going to be asking you, how's your credit?
Mm-hmm.
That's not an issue. Okay, they're not going to be asking you because everybody assumes that you have good credit. So let's talk further about how leveraged are you? So how much debt do you really have? Do you know how much debt you really have? You need to get rid of your debt. You need to work on that. So you can't get rid of debt right away. You didn't accumulate it immediately. But if you do, if you can, you should. Okay? What are your assets? What assets do you have? You need to have an inventory. You should complete a personal financial statement of your assets and liabilities every single year. You should do 2. The first one ought to be what your assets are right now.
Mm-hmm.
The second one ought to be, what are you believing for? Where are you trying to get to? Where are you trying to go? Okay? Because once you set a plan in place, not a dream, but a plan in place,
Right.
then you have a greater likelihood of being able to achieve what that plan is. You'll be able to achieve that. And so let's talk about what your investments are. How do you invest? How do you invest? That's my question. Do you invest in a 401k at your job? Do you have money that's set aside? Do you have your 6 months? If you had your 6 months emergency money set aside, you wouldn't be worried right now. You wouldn't be concerned right now because you'd be cutting back on the outflow of cash, as we talked about in the previous 2 weeks, and you'd actually have cash. Okay, so you need to make sure that you totally understand what your state of affairs are, and you have to have 6 months saved. In this environment, I would have to say start saving for 9 months. That's what I would say. Because we don't know. The worst that can happen is you have too much money saved. You never have too much money saved.
Right.
Because if you have too much money saved, you can then convert that savings into investment. Now, somebody asked me last week about is this a good time? Something about a house. They asked about a house. Is this a good time? To pay off their mortgage. And I said, no, that I thought that we needed to find out what the full scope of this coronavirus situation was and what the full impact and effect was going to be on the economy. And you might want to keep your cash for that.
Mm-hmm.
I still feel that way. Last week I talked about the fact that you have an opportunity, if you are so needful, to tap into your 401k or to tap into your IRA. I went into that in detail last week. But let's talk about money plays. How do you have a money play? What's a money play? A money play is taking advantage of financial opportunities that present themselves at the time. Okay, so there's a money play that you could play right now is, let's say, for example, that you want to buy, you were in the market to buy a house.
Right.
You want to buy a house. Let's say you have money set aside in an IRA, and you were trying to save money, put money together for the down payment. Now we know in this environment, the banks have increased their requirements. So before you might have been able to put 10% down Now they're definitely requiring 20% down if they are lending at all. Some, banks have an appetite for lending in different areas, and so let's just say, for example, you have a 401k or you have an IRA, okay, and what happens is if you take that money out, because you have to put it back in 3 years, otherwise it's going to become income. But if you take that money out and you use it to invest in helping you to buy this house, which you were going to buy anyway, that would be a good investment. If you take the money out and you squander it, that would be foolishness. Okay? And because remember, the whole point of saving is that you are putting money aside for the future. Okay? And I would have to say to you, you must be informed about the different types of investments that you're getting involved in. Let's say, for example, if you're investing in the market, you need to become a student of the stock market.
Right.
You need to understand what a stock is, because a stock means that you're buying into the future earnings of that company. You're saying that the value of the company is solid today, and you're buying into the management of that company. You're buying into a company.
Right.
So you need to have some idea about that company. Does that company pay a dividend? Is that company highly leveraged? Does it have a lot of debt? Does that company is their cash, or what's their cash position? What is their geopolitical position? For example, and I don't want to be getting over the top, but let's just say like Apple. What's going to happen with Apple when our country decides that they're going to have some kind of retaliation, not retaliation, but some kind of response back on this coronavirus thing? What's going to happen with the rest of the world when people start having pushback on China? And China has been making a lot of things. Well, if you have Apple, for example, and I'm just using this as an example, if you have Apple, Apple is cash flush. Okay, so they can handle a move like that. Other companies that may not be as strong, then they may not have that. And so we're talking about not what's happening. Somebody said Apple is rising today. We're not talking about today. And remember, the stock market is not a today situation. Okay, the stock market, the whole point of the stock market is to invest for the future. And so if you're taking today money and you're using it in the stock market and you don't get a return on your investment, you're going to be hurt.
Right.
If the stock market drops and you were saving that money and you don't have the time, a typical investment cycle is 7 years. So you need to be able to put your money into the market, and within 7 years, you should have anywhere. I mean, the market has been doing so well, and it's been, in some instances, still people are talking about. I was meeting with one of my investment groups this morning, and they were saying, there's still overvaluation based on what's happening in the market now. Okay, but you have to decide what's the best for you. You have to decide, can you hang in there for 7 years? If something happens, if you pull out your money and the market just happened that day to tank, you're going to take a loss. Okay, you're going to take a loss. Okay, unless you have a very good idea of what your investment objectives are, you have a good advisor. And I'm not an advisor. Don't ask me to be your advisor. I'm not really interested in that because I'm doing development in Turks and Caicos right now. Praise the Lord. And so you have to have a good advisor. You need to, when they have meetings at your company, you need to go to those investment meetings. A lot of people say they're boring and this and that. No, you need to be there. You need to understand what those are. Let's say you want to invest in real estate. Okay. It may be a time when you look at what's happening in the real estate market. You may be a person that you're really good, you're handy, you can invest in real estate, you have the contacts, the connections, you can buy a couple of houses and you can rent the houses out. The rental market has been off the chain. And so you can maybe buy a couple of houses and you can invest so that you're able to get a return on investment. Then you have to be able to make sure you have the proper insurances. You have to make sure that you have the proper the things in place where you can, management in place where you can actually get things handled for the tenant as quickly as possible. If that's something that you're excited about and something that you want to do, maybe that's what God has called you to. Maybe that's what you're supposed to be involved in. Maybe you're a hairdresser, okay? And you know, hairdressers make money all day long, all the time, because a hair salon is, a hairdresser, I'll say, is a resistance-proof business. People may get their hair done maybe a few weeks later, but they're going to get their hair done. So that's a great business to be in. Okay. And so make yourself how do you think that Paul Mitchell and how do you think that Vidal Sassoon and all of these here, you know, begin to diversify even within your industry, within that product? Find ways to be great at what your business is. I mean, people when I was in Boston, when I was in school, we used to go to this woman, and she was known, an African-American woman, she was known worldwide for her precision haircuts. Okay? And people would fly in just to have her cut their hair. I know people right now who people in New York fly them in as their hairdressers when they have major events just to do their hair. Okay, and so don't despise what you do. Okay, be very good at what you do and create that opportunity, because this is your business. Okay, if you're working at a company, just like I talked about with the Delta person, become great at what you do. Customer service is so lacking. Can I get a like on that? Please. I mean, if you go to a retail store, you have to look and find. Forget that. You take your own product to a machine to ask what the price is, to find out what the price is. But if you can be good in customer service, my husband just got a phenomenal compliment from someone who called him and asked how he was doing and said they were in the hospital. I think it was Henry Ford, and they said, hey, guess what? You know, I'm telling everybody about Eagan Orthodontics because you guys have the best customer service of any business that I have been in. Wow, that made him, that was a balloon for him. I was like, praise the Lord. He was telling me about it. He was so happy and excited about it because your reputation will speak for itself. And the Bible tells us that your gift will make room for you and bring you before great men. So what is your business? I want you to understand that somebody just said they're at Saks Fifth Avenue until they have their own store. Well, right now, Saks is your store. Okay, right now, you ought to be the best seller, the best buyer, whatever your role is at Saks Fifth Avenue. You ought to be so good at what you do that they have to give you an increase. You know, the best way to get a raise is to be so good at your job that they cannot help but notice you. And that's the same thing if you have your own business. Okay, and this is the same thing in nonprofits. If you happen to work for a nonprofit, because I think that sometimes nonprofits think that they're immune, but nonprofits should be even more service-oriented because they're doing things for public service. Okay, and so like if you're at the church, you shouldn't be causing confusion. I'm just saying. You know, you ought to be bringing your A game. First of all, you ought to be an A game player. No matter where you go, you ought to be bringing your A game. Okay, and so if you're in a business, let's just say, for example, if you're in a business where you are required to sell. Now, let me say this. Let me back up on that. Everybody is in sales. People say, oh, I hate sales. I hate sales. No, everybody is in sales. Say, I am in sales.
Yeah, it's good.
I am in sales. I am in sales.
Mm-hmm.
I'm selling myself to you right now. I'm telling you what I know. Okay? You are a salesperson. And the question is, if you don't believe in your own product, they say it's a something that can't tout its own something. I don't
Right,
know what
right, right.
it's a
Talking about
core something
the
that
trumpet,
can't.
they can't toot, Purchase can't toot his own horn, something like that.
Yeah, right. You
Yeah.
got it faster. And so for a person that can't toot his own horn, I'm not saying be prideful, because that's another side of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is you're a salesperson, okay? And so you need to be able to sell yourself. So if you're own your own business, or you're a steward for you in your business, you have your own company, you need to be selling yourself. You're always selling. Okay, oh, that they said it's a sad dog that can't wag his own tail.
That's it.
Thank you, Karen Hoskin. Praise the Lord. Yes, it's a sad dog that can't wag his own tail. Thanks for that.
Right.
And so we need to realize that we're either selling or we are being sold.
Mm-hmm.
We are either selling
Good.
or we are being sold. Okay, that person said they work for Home Depot as an installation service coordinator. People ought to be calling Home Depot saying, I want to talk to you because I know that when I connect with you, there is a connection and an understanding of what the job is. And I know my job is going to get done. I know there's going to be follow-up. Okay, so either you're selling or you're being sold. One or the other. Okay, so what I'm saying to you is when you go and you present your case to your boss about an idea that you have, you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
You're selling an idea that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're influencing. Maybe you don't like the word selling, influencing, but it's still the same thing. You're influencing. Either you're influenced, an influencer, or being influenced. And we're all, as the communication goes, you could be one or the other.
Right.
But you need to understand that you're already doing that. You're already selling. You're already influencing. If you're looking for a husband, you certainly are influencing. Okay? If you are trying to get another job, you certainly are influencing. If you're trying to get a vendor to do business with you, you certainly are influencing. So you have to accept the fact that you are an influencer. I get excited when these things. I need to turn the fire off because I'm over here burning up. Okay, forget the fire chat. We went from the fire chat. I'm supposed to be nice, calm, cool,
Uh-huh.
and collected.
That's good.
Supposed to have a fire going. We supposed to have this nice little fireside chat.
Mm-hmm.
But listen,
Now you just throwing fire.
I am on fire. Once you understand that you're an influencer and that you can influence people, okay, and you accept this. It's part of your fabric. The question is, how are you going to influence and what are you going to influence?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is your family business. We're talking about, the topic today is about your family business.
Right.
Okay, and so what we're talking about is, Karen said fire. I am on fire. I should have worn something lighter than this. I'm burning up, Jack. And so we're not doing any more fireside chats, not down here anyway. And so, so I'm saying this to say that for your family business, what is it that you are influencing? Mm-hmm. And the first people that you should be influencing is your children. Mm-hmm. Your children. Mm-hmm. The second thing you want to be influencing is your environment, your workplace. Okay, whether that workplace is some place where you work or your own business. If you have your own business right now, you ought to be calling all of your customers, every customer. Mm-hmm. And you ought to be calling them and you ought to be saying, I'm thinking about you. Okay, is everything okay? Don't want anything, don't need anything. just want to make sure that you're okay. You need to be doing some serious customer follow-up. Let's say you don't have their phone numbers, maybe you have their email addresses. You need to be communicating with them. Why? Because you want to keep people that you influence in your sphere of influence. You don't want them to get out of your sphere of influence. You know, what about if Pastor Andre called you up and said, hey, you know, I know you remember, I'm just thinking about you, praying. You would be off the chain.
Did that 2 days ago.
No, that's what he does.
Right.
That's what he does. And so what I'm saying is you got to keep that influencing going, even in these quiet times, so that when you now fire it up, when the governor now opens up, we're in Michigan, and so when the governor opens up this state, and we're ready to rock and roll. We have our plexiglass up. We've prepared our office.
Right.
We've done everything that we need to do. All Governor Whitmer has to do is say, bang, ring the bell,
right.
out the box.
Right.
We're setting up our appointments. We're getting our patients lined up. Okay, I'm in Turks and Caicos with my project down there. They opened up. I've got my crew. They're building. I'm getting pictures of the roof. They're putting seal and peel on. They're installing the roof on the building. I'm watching them with my phone. I'm like, hey, y'all, look, I may be in Michigan, but I'm watching. Okay, I'm on top of this job. And so I'm excited about the fact that I can continue to be in touch, that my family business is working. I'm making money in my family business, even though I'm not able to actually be on the job, be on the case. And so what we have to do is we have to go back to our businesses, okay, especially if you're an entrepreneur. And I'm really big on entrepreneurship. And I think that even part of your family business, no matter what you do, you need to have a side opportunity going.
Right.
You know, some people say a side hustle.
Right.
But you need to have something going on the side. And we laugh at people when they laugh. They say, the joke about the Jamaicans, how they have 4 and 5 and 6 different jobs. But guess what? They're getting paid out of all those different income streams. And you need to have different income streams. You need to have active income, and you need to have passive income. And we've talked about all of this. We've talked about all of this in the past. These are not new terms, I'm sure. And for some of you that they are new terms, maybe we can have a little session on that. But it's very, very important. Let me say this to you. I've been cleaning out my closets. Guess what I thought of? Oh, I have some really beautiful stuff. And so I need to I'm not wearing it. I'm working in the Caribbean now. And so I'm going to put some of my stuff on eBay. What does it cost me? A couple of pictures and firing eBay up. So now I have another business that I can do right now here from my home, putting these pictures up on eBay and making money while I'm talking to you. While I'm talking to you.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
We have books that we've authored. Books are being sold while I'm talking to you.
That's right.
Okay? And so the question is, what is your active income? And this is really important because there are people that may be on that are older. Okay? And you may be retired, quote unquote. But if you're retired, you still can have some active income coming in. You can have some passive income coming in and some active income coming in. For example, maybe you need to write your memoirs. Maybe you need to write a book. And now it's so easy. Before, we're running out of time. Before, you had to go to a printer, have the book printed. All that. Now you can print on demand. Okay? Now you can print on demand. And so all I'm saying to you is, I'm a business. You're a business. We're in business. You're an influencer. I'm an influencer. There's cash all around. Guess what? There are people that are not thinking right now about how are they going to survive. And the question is, how can you connect with those people financially, and how can you make a transfer of resources? You have something, that they need. So Domino's is looking for drivers. Okay, they're paying extra money for drivers. There are resources out there. So there's something that you have
Hmm.
that somebody needs.
Right.
So make that identification of what that is, because remember, you know I love you. You are a business.
That's good. That's good stuff, man. I really appreciate it, and appreciate everybody connecting with us. This was fire. The fire was, it worked out actually, because it's exactly what was happening. It was just in a little different way than what you planned, but it